Call to order. Public hearing on applications, Waltenberry, Seward, Lorenz, and Kelly. The public notice is hereby given to, oh, you got the wrong page. I had it, there it is right here. Hiding it on me, there you go. I will call the meeting of the Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. This meeting will begin with a public hearing. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak must register and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator at this time. Following the hearing, we will conduct our monthly business meeting, which time we will vote on applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave the following hearing. The applicant and town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decisions. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of a decision can sign the sheet on the table in the front of the room. Those of you wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of these proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for a hearing each application is, after each application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will be asked to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the committee. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will ask for a summary of the committee, field observations, and any staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a short rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone, state their name, and direct their comments to the committee. I ask that all testimony be kept brief, no more than 5 minutes, and to the point. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recording will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The committee has looked at all the properties, and the record will reflect these observations. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal to circuit court. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 10-day period. I will now introduce the committee. You guys want to start down there? Name, let them know who you are, where you're from.
Jerry Lauer, Plainfield.
George Peterman, District 9.
Pat King, City Watoma.
Carl Grisar, Watoma.
I'm Cindy, I'm acting as secretary.
And Todd Waller, zoning administrator.
We have 4 applications coming before us for consideration. The first being conditional use by Sidney Lorenz, Watoma, Wisconsin, has made an application for a conditional use in accordance to section 58-236-22 and 58-454-34 of the Waushara County Zoning Code to establish a home-based business offering vehicle repair service, sandblasting in an existing 36 by 48 foot detached garage in the AG 10 General Agricultural Zone. The location is approximately 2-acre parcel of land being part of the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter, now known at Lot 2 of CSM 3579, Section 12, T19N R10E, Town of Watoma, N4403 State Road 22. Will the applicant please come up to the podium and then state your name for the record and explain what it is you would like to do? We would also ask that you speak into the microphone as best you can because we are recording this and also for the benefit of the public in attendance that are behind you.
Okay, my name, excuse me, my name is Sid Lorenz, and applicant is for doing mechanical work and little light body work and some sandblasting when it's necessary, and probably about 20-25 hours a week because I'm retired, so it's just kind of a retirement job to fill in, and that's about all.
Thank you. But before you take a seat, I would like to open the floor to the committee for any questions they might have.
With your painting, do you have a paint booth set up for painting?
We have filters and exhaust for that, yes. Yeah,
And how about-
it's a separate room.
All right. How about for sandblasting? Would you?
That's out in the open.
Out in the
That
open.
sand, yeah.
I had a question about I know you had answered it, but just for the sake of the public, you have any oil or other contaminants what do you do with that?
Yeah, I had a thing called a lubester, and we put it into there, and then if that gets to be too much, maybe like twice a year, then we take some, and it goes right to the regular waste disposal. And there, we pump it out ourselves and put it in containers. And I don't really like doing oil changes, so there isn't going to be that much of that.
Do you have any fire extinguishers or anything in the building there?
Yes, I do.
Do you? Okay. Does the staff have any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, one of the things we noticed too were the paint canisters and that, do you keep those confined in a fire-safe container?
You mean in the paint room?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a metal container or a metal cabinet
Okay.
for that, yes.
All right.
I
Thank-
have no further question.
Thank you. You may go ahead and sit down. Has zoning received any correspondence regarding the request?
We received an email from Kelly Nicholas, who's the Access Management Coordinator for the North Central Region of the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. It was received on June 6th of 2018, and she just basically stated that the owner needs to contact WDOT for an application for connection to a state trunk highway. This is due to the fact that the state needs to review and document that the driveway is now operating as commercial in their estimation or in their view. I explained to Kelly that this was a home-operated business, and it's not that they're looking to close the roadway or require any additional improvements. It's just that the applicant, because of the fact that it's, in their eyes, a commercial business, they just need to reclassify the roadway, but the application needs to be made by the applicant. And that's all we've received.
Okay. Is there anyone that's asked for a registration to speak in favor of?
No. Nope.
Has there been anybody registered to seek an opposition request?
We received one application, or excuse me, one registration. Robert Van, you could please come up.
Robert Van, Watoma citizen, town of Watoma, supervisor, but I'm speaking for myself and some of the neighbors that have talked to me.
Your address too, please?
N42, 37 State Road 73, Watoma.
You can please keep your comments brief to, so we can get them in 3 minutes time or so. Be appreciated.
You bet. I'm ready to go whenever you say.
Okay, you're on.
Okay. I have some concerns about this zoning. There's been a number of cars on the premises. This is concerning the shop. There've been a number of repairable cars, parts cars, large amount of parts laying around. There's been cars for sale on the road right away pretty much year-round. I got a concern with his painting supplies, and you know, when you have painting supplies, you got to have cleaning supplies. How do you clean the paint guns and all that? Do they have a hazardous waste pickup for hazardous? I'm not talking oil, I'm talking about the cleaners and stuff. Every body shop has to have one, or anybody that buys any amount of paint. Also, then we'll go over to, well, hours of operation, which the shop I really doesn't matter to me, but let's talk about the sandblasting. Hours of operation concerns me, and I did talk to neighbors directly in sight of his place. Contaminants in the air, airborne dust, metal dust, lead, magnesium, some other things. What kind of containment area does he have for blasting? Most commercial paint blasters have an area they work in. You also are creating sandblasting grid waste. How will you dispose of this hazardous waste? Okay, how many bags of sandblast will you use per hour? And I would estimate you probably use a 100-pound bag every hour. Okay, if you blast for 10 hours a week, you're going to create 1,000 pounds of waste. If you blast for 10 hours per week, for 25 weeks, you got 12.5 tons of waste. Where is this going to go? Now, we all know when you see the wind blowing this sand around on the farm fields, this airborne dust can blow the same way over who knows where. That's a concern. Silicone sand is not to be used for this type of work. It's very dangerous. And the noise from the blaster, I guess, you know, hours of operation and how far can you hear it. And just want to thank you as a board for your listening to my concerns.
Thank you.
Any questions I can answer? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any more?
Nope.
Is there anyone to speak on just the registration information only?
And nobody's registered.
Staff comments.
Okay. The applicants Sidney and Deborah Lorenz are requesting approval of a conditional use to establish a home-based business offering vehicle service, minor auto repair, and sandblasting in an existing 36 by 48 detached garage on their property located at NN 4403 State Road 22 in the town of Watoma in property zoned AG General Agricultural. This property has dated back in terms of our view. In February of 2018, we received a report from the township regarding an apparent auto body business being run out of the property. We immediately sent a letter out to the homeowner to ask them to cease and desist as they didn't have the appropriate conditional uses. That letter went unresponded to, and as a result, we did a follow-up site visit in April of this year and found numerous vehicles, in-ops, and auto parts on the property. Throughout the month of April, we went back and forth regarding the use of the property and the cleanup efforts by the applicant. We ultimately issued a citation on April 30th of 2018 due to noncompliance. I do have to state, though, that since that time, the applicant has done a considerable job in terms of cleaning up the property and also now has made formal application, as we have before us, for the conditional use for a home-based business. The committee visited the site at their recent on-site on Wednesday, June 20th, and felt that the conditional use request is consistent with the surrounding land uses and should not negatively impact the neighboring properties. They did, however, have concerns that there were no fire extinguishers present in the garage and that the paint was not properly stored or housed. They felt that the extinguishers should be readily available and visible and that the paint should be housed in a separate fire-safe compartment. Staff has reviewed this request and believes that should the applicant continue to work to bringing their property more into compliance with existing codes and ordinances and run any future business operations according to specific conditions, a home-based business specializing in minor vehicle repair and body work could be a welcomed addition along State Route 22. We are therefore recommending approval of the conditional use request to establish a home-based business in the town of Watoma at N4403, subject to the conditions listed in the report that you have before you. Now, typically with any conditional use, there are a litany of conditions that are more or less standard. However, we do have several here I'd like to point out that are specific to the request at hand. And if you turn into your report on page 3, it's number 6, that the applicant shall contact WDOT regarding the existing driveway and may need to make application for connection to State Trunk Highway. Number 12, that all hazardous and toxic materials, including waste oils, etc., shall be stored and handled in accordance with state and federal requirements. Number 13, fire suppression equipment shall be kept on the premises and be operational at all times. Number 14, no more than one in-op per lot shall be permanently stored on the premises, and that any vehicles being serviced shall be properly stored in front of or near the garage and shall be kept in a neat and orderly manner, that exterior storage of mechanical automobile parts, scraps, waste, and that shall be stored behind a solid wood fence, that said structure shall meet all applicable accessory structure setbacks. Number 16, that no sales of vehicles or machinery is permitted. Number 17, that exterior sandblasting hours are limited to Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. And lastly, number 18, the business operations shall be restricted to the parcel in which the residence is located, which is Lot 2 of CSM 3779.
Thank you. Is there anything more that the applicant would like to add or have any further comment?
Mr. Lorenz, do you want to maybe just address some of the concerns that Mr. Van had brought up, just regarding your sandblasting operations, how many anticipated hours and so forth?
Yeah, well, my son was going to do quite a bit of that, but then he got a permanent job. So that's going to be once in a while thing and not a whole lot. As far as anything else, we really don't have much else, that's there. Everyone here, I think you've seen what I have, and just not going to do a whole lot anymore. Getting too old for that.
Can I make a remark, please? What, like he was concerned about what you do with your cleaning supplies, your paint, and what do you do with that?
Yeah, we put them in a container, just like it says, if they dry out, it evaporates, then it goes right into regular disposal. It's just like the other paints. And there's very little that's left. And in fact, when you do it, you return whatever isn't used to use again, and it doesn't harden up. And then that you can actually keep for years in these new products. So that's kind of nice. That way.
I would just like to mention, my name is Carl Grieser. I'm very familiar with requirements that I have to come forth and set forth that you have to follow. After the review yesterday, would this be considered somewhat of a hobby?
I would. I'd consider it a hobby. I've always kind of, if I look at this more as a hobby, then it's not a job, and I just feel better about working at it. It's not like you go somewhere and work 8-10 hours a day. I consider it, more of a hobby. In fact, a lot of what I'll be doing is a couple of the old trucks, and I have a couple tractors, and then just enough other stuff to make a living.
I would just further suggest that you do your due diligence in regards to the requests that have come forth this evening, because it is considered a sandblasting, a health environment problem. But overall, Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied with your condition of your property and how you maintain it.
Second being the conditional use request made by Bernard Waltenberry. Made an application for conditional use in accordance to section 58-23611 and 58-45435 of the Waushara County's code to place a used single-family dwelling in the AG General Agricultural Zone. The location, an approximate 6.5 acre parcel of land being part of the south one half of the northwest quarter, known as the north one half of Lot 2 of CSM 562, Section 21, T 18 North, R 11 East, Town of Marion, N 976, 21st Court. Will the applicant? Okay. Will you please let us know what your name is and what you plan to do? And would you also ask that you please speak into the microphone as best you can, because, again, we're recording it, and in order for the people in back to hear as well as us.
Thank you. My name is Bernard Waltenberry. My address there is N976 21st Court, Nash Coral, and I have it's a 14 by 70 mobile home, used Marshfield. It's an old one, and I'd like to be able to put it on my property to live in for my wife and I. My wife is disabled. She has mental disabilities. So this didn't happen the way we wanted it to. She's still only 62, and she would normally be working now. I was planning on building a house. I'm retired. I'm 71, retired a long time ago. And but it just didn't work out that way. This is about all we can afford to put there, is this house. And there's a lot of work to it as far as getting the property ready, getting the base. I'm not sure if I need to put a slab for one that old or not, but all that has to be done. So need permission to put this house there. I have pictures of it. I did not get to see the inside of it because there's a construction crew living in that house right now, staying in it, not living in it, staying in it with all of their tools. And they're working on the mobile home park's other houses, bringing them up to the way he wants to replace all his old ones, replace or put new siding, new roofs and everything on certain ones, and then replace the other ones. This is one of them he wants to replace. So he's the only person I could find that would work with me as far as, you know, you go and make a commitment to buy a house and then you don't approve of it. It gets to be very time consuming. I was here in 2016 and went through the process and then got right up till September, and they said, well, you can get into the October meeting, and I'm going, well, I'm going back to Arizona. So we went back to Arizona. But I need permission to put this house there on my property. Any question?
Okay, thank you, but before you take a seat, would you please stay at the podium for a minute while we open it up to the members here of the committee for questions? Any questions?
Is there your intention to put new siding and a roof on that particular home?
Yes and no. I like the way it looks now. I've got some, you know, it doesn't have dings or, it's just, it's got a nice dark color. It's two-tone. I'm going to ask them about, my intention was originally to put siding on it, yes. But if at all possible, I'd like to keep it the way it is. at least until I bring it up and get it placed on the property, because if you put siding on it, it's in spring green, which is like 70-some miles from here, I think, so. And I don't want to put the siding on it down there and then have them drag it all the way up here and take a chance on getting it dented up or something. So once they get it in place, I put siding on it. I like it the way it is if at all possible, but no, I'll put siding on it. Siding is just, that's just visual. It doesn't improve the insulating capacity of it or anything.
Questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question or two. How did you come about securing this trailer? Did you do any investigation?
Oh, sure. I found it on the internet. He was selling trailers. Actually, he was giving away some trailers, but he was selling some. He had like 5 of them listed on, I don't know which, if it was just the marketplace or I just Googled used mobile homes for sale, and I called him. He said he had a bunch of them, and I should come down there. We went down there in April, end of April, and looked at 3 or 4 of them. And the one that I was interested in looked really nice from the outside, but it was trashed. It was junk. And that's the thing about the siding. This one here is well built. It's got floors in it. The one that had the new siding on it didn't even have floors in it. So we looked at some other ones, but
Did you make any prior contact to the Waushara property committees, building inspections, et cetera, before you looked into purchasing this trailer, or investigating? And
I don't understand what you're saying.
what I'm trying to say is, did you make any visual contact, or not visual, but contact with the different inspection departments within the Waushara County?
Well, yes, and I've owned this property for about 11 years, I think, now, and I've been improving it all the time. I mean, when I got there was just junk everywhere. I'm sure you're familiar with that place, because I'm sure you had plenty of complaints about it. And when I bought it, I had a guy come in and clean it. I think it cost me about $3,500 or $3,600 to have all of the junk hauled away. I'm still pulling stuff up out of the dirt. But anyway, and I've been working on it ever since to get it cleaned up and get it at least where I can drive a lawnmower down there without tearing it up. But I had a septic put in. Well, when he came in to clean it up, the guy that was working there to clean up, he says, "You should get a perk test done right away." I said, "Okay." So he had a perk test done. Next year I come back, put in a septic. I put in the septic in 2012, not at the same time. And they came out and did all the inspections, put in electric. They came out and did all the inspections. You know, county was coming out like twice a week for quite a while, doing inspections for the grade on the septic and the electric. You have to have that grounded. They have to come and inspect it before you can turn it on. All of
Okay.
the only thing I didn't have an inspection for was my Sandpoint well. I drove that in myself.
Yeah, and I questioned you yesterday about that, and there again, don't hesitate to contact the different departments about that too. Because the information that you've given me now will give me more thought about making a decision as far as I'm concerned. And as long as you've done some of your due diligence, and I would highly recommend and suggest that you continue to do that.
Trying to, but between the fact that I live 2,000 miles away now, I used to live in Red Granite. I lived there for 14 years. I had a house right there, 14 by 70 mobile home right on 21, where the sand and gravel place is there now. and I sold it 30 years ago and moved to south where it was warm. But back then, they didn't have all these rules about you have to do, in fact, I think my taxes were $52 a year for the property because they couldn't tax a mobile home, or $62 or something like that. And then it went up and up and up and up and up and up for the time I was there, but yeah.
Well, I thank you for your answers.
Any other questions?
You had made a statement about maybe putting in a storm cellar or something? Is that-
Yes. Well, what was it? I forget, 14 or 15, when the storm came through, there was like a tornado microburst or something came through and knocked down a whole bunch of trees on my property. And yeah, I had to come and get a permit to put the shed up there too from Country Builders. I had to buy the permit. They came and put it up. Well, it picked up that shed, and that's a, what is it, 12 by 16 shed, big shed, picked it up and tossed it completely off of the pad where it was on and tore the roof off of it. And tore down 1, 2, 3, 4 trees, 4 of my trees, big trees. And since then, I'm thinking it wouldn't be a bad idea to have like a little storm cellar. And if you put it right where that well comes up, that would make more sense than putting it someplace else. Now, I don't know if that's in your codes or not, but it seems to be, it would be more, after that, I lived here all my life. I lived in Wisconsin for 42 years before I moved away. I'm 71 now, and grew up in Ripon on a farm, and never really bothered me until something of yours gets blown away like that. That's when it starts to bother you about living in a mobile home. So, yes, if it's possible. I don't know. Is that possible?
I don't even know myself, but when I was younger, I lived in a mobile home myself, and I had it anchored. So
we had that one anchored in red granite too, but it had a partial basement under
Right.
with the pump and everything in it. And I've been down there I was down there a couple times when the storms were coming through too. So I'd kind of like to have that. Originally, I wanted to build a house with a basement, but I don't think I'm gonna. I'm too old. My wife's not working. She just recently. She's only been on her She was officially disabled in May of 2014, but they didn't. I had to fight them every inch of the way until last May before they finally, or last August it was, before they finally said, well, yeah, you're disabled. And she'd been in a hospital, and at that time she was in the hospital in ICU on life support in a coma. So that was last year.
Okay.
And one point of clarification too, with regard to UDC codes, there are a number of different codes that actually apply here. UDC states that for mobile homes and within specific date ranges, that the foundation and that adhere to the manufacturer's specifications. For this type of unit, 1976 Marshfield, I apologize, that there are no specific foundation requirements. However, there is a code, and that I have it listed in your staff report, that there is a UDC code, and I apologize, here I have it written. It's SPS 321.16 that requires a frost penetration level of at least 48 inches below grade, which is basically a foundation. So if you're looking at putting in a possible foundation or a crawl space, that could be accomplished, that could be incorporated within part of your foundation. You can do a slab / part.
I'm going to have to do I'm going to have to do a bunch of work to get it long enough to
Understand.
and level enough, so whatever is required, I'm going to have to hire somebody to do
And the other thing too is it's anchoring it. The state code also requires it to be anchored. It's very difficult to do anchoring down a mobile home into dirt. I mean, unless you were to put, concrete bollards down and then anchor to those. But anyways, that's, please, you'll see as we get into this, it's contact the building inspector.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything?
Else? Okay. You may take a seat now.
Thank you.
Is there any correspondence that you've received in regard to this?
There's been no correspondence received to date.
Is there anyone that's wishing to speak in favor of?
Nobody's registered.
Anyone that's against?
We have nobody registered and against,
And is there anyone that's,
and nobody in favor, or information.
are there any other staff comments?
Yes. Just in summary, the applicants, Bernard and Melanie Waltenberry, are requesting approval of a conditional use to place a used single-family dwelling, which is a 1976 Marshfield mobile home, on the subject property located at N976 21st Court in the town of Marion, on property zoned AG General Agricultural. The property has essentially remained undeveloped over the years. The applicants did receive a land use permit for a shed in 2011. Shortly thereafter, in 2012, also received a sanitary permit, of which both the shed and the septic system have been installed. However, the proposed two-bedroom home has never been built. It should be pointed out that the applicants in the zoning office have had several communications throughout the years. Between 2012 and 2015, there was debate over an existing travel trailer residing on the premises, of which the applicants were living in. Then there was, I know, a considerable amount of discussion trying to find out a way in terms of how to bring their travel trailers into compliance. However, nothing ever materialized. The travel trailers have since come and gone. At the present time, there's one travel trailer residing on the premises, of which the applicants are living in. They have also been notified by staff that, once again, it's against the code. The committee visited the site at the recent on-site on Wednesday, June 20th, and felt that the conditional use is consistent with the surrounding land uses and should not negatively impact the neighbors if the single-family dwelling were placed upon the property in an acceptable location, and that it was also brought up to code compliance in terms of the base and also met all applicable sanitary and well requirements. There are certain distances required for the well from your septic tank and then also from the drain field itself. Now, keep in mind that due to past legislation and code requirements, conditional uses, if listed in our codes, they must be approved subject to conditions, and that the mobile homes are subject to the same standards as a used single-family dwelling. It also needs to be keep in mind that the mobile home is still subject to all UDC codes and inspections by the county building inspector. And while the applicants did state in their application that their intention was to re-roof and re-side, staff is concerned that no material samples and or photos have been provided illustrating the finished color. We've reviewed their request, continue to support these used dwellings and single-family homes, used single-family homes. However, we're concerned regarding the overall appearance and permanency of the proposed home based upon the submitted material and photos and its potential impact upon surrounding land values given the lack of details on future siding, roofing materials, and the foundation. These will need to be submitted at the time of land use and building permit for review and approval by the zoning administrator and the building inspector. And that's in accordance with UDC requirements in County Code 58-236 and then Section 11. We are recommending approval of the conditional use to place a used single-family dwelling, the 1976 Marshfield mobile home, on the subject property subject to the conditions listed. Once again, as a conditional use, there are basically a litany of standard conditions. I would like to point out a few that are specific to this property. Number 3, the home cannot be placed upon the property until all permits are obtained, including land use, building, and reconnect sanitary permit. Number 5, the used dwelling shall be finished to be like new condition with both a new roof and new siding. Obtaining a land use, samples and or photos of all materials shall be submitted for review and approval prior to obtaining a land use permit from the zoning office. Number 7, footings and foundations, including those for landings and stoops, shall be placed below the frost penetration level or at least 48 inches below adjacent grade, whichever is deeper for frost protection, per SPS 321.16. The applicant shall also contact the county building inspector for all code requirements. Number 9, at the time of land use and building permit, the applicant shall demonstrate how the structure meets minimum standards for protection from fire and anchoring for wind and natural disasters. And lastly, number 10, the existing travel trailers shall be removed from the premises by June 26, 2018.
Okay. Is there anything more the applicant would like to say or anything regarding this?
I understand that you want the mobile home, or my travel trailer removed by Monday. Well, that's, yeah, I can pull it out of there, go someplace else with it, but it's still where I live, and I would much rather be near the property in some way rather than my sister-in-law and brother-in-law live in Marion, Wisconsin, and they manage a RV park up there. And another sister, her two sisters, both have campers up there. So I could go up there, but that's a long ways to drive to try and manage, get somebody to do the work that's required on that property, between coming and getting the permits and getting the contractors to come in, put in the footings and the foundations, whatever is in the ordinances. And it's going to have to get moved, obviously, when they're putting in the footings. I mean, it won't be sitting where it is now, but I would much rather be close by, because when I put in the septic and the electric and all of that, I had the same problems. I was staying in Ripon, and every day you got to drive back all the way over here, and it just, and then if you got to come into Wautoma for a permit, that's another. It makes it very difficult, because my wife requires 24/7 care. I mean, I cannot leave her. I can't leave her alone for that long to be working on it. So if there's any way that I could keep my current camper there while I'm working on getting this house in, because I'm establishing a residence, and according to your rules, if I establish a residence, I can keep my house there.
Mr. Walmer, you've known about the code, though, with regard
right.
to travel
And
trailers since 2012.
What happened was, in 2012, my wife had a massive stroke in September of 2012. And at the time, I had to take her back to Arizona to the doctors, where she wound up in the hospital on life support for a long time. She's got permanent brain damage. And at the time, I was not able to take the camper with me, and I left it. My brother-in-law, my daughter's husband, eventually came and got it, took it to his place, and that was and I didn't get back up here until 2016 was the next time I got up here. So the house, that camper, all I wanted to do was let them know that I'm not able to take it with me right now. But as soon as I could, I came back and got it. And he came and got it, I don't know what day, I don't even remember when he came and got it. I was having problems with the glides wouldn't come in, and I had to go.
This violation is a code violation, doesn't necessarily involve the hearing issue that I don't think everyone needs
Well,
to see.
he asked me about it. He asked me about it.
And one thing that we can do, if you apply for the land use permit and you start to do work, you'd have to disconnect your trailer,
Of course.
and relocate it so that you can do work on the base
Correct.
and get things going. I'm sure we could work something out, as long as we know that your land use permit has been submitted for, your building permit's been submitted for, and we see that work is progressing. Then you would be allowed to live within the travel trailer while the home is being constructed or being brought to the property.
And that would be when you have all your permits in
Right.
place, then a person is allowed to have a to Marion to the park, once you have all your permits are in place, should you get an approval tonight, you could bring the travel trailer back at that point, but not until you have all your new permits in place.
What new permits do I need now?
You need
I thought this was gonna be-
yeah, we can talk about, you need a land use permit and a building permit.
Okay, I thought that's
I
what
do
this
have
was.
one question for Mr. Waltenberry, if I could. If you were to receive an approval tonight, I'm wondering if there's a deadline for you to move this new unit onto the
No.
property? If you have some sort of a
No.
deadline, where you have to take delivery of this unit?
And that's why this unit works for me the best, because he said that it's fine where it is right now, as long as those people, his construction crew are staying in it, not living in it, but just staying in it. You know, in fact, I did go inside, and the floor was full of tools. So, I mean, you know.
You don't have to take delivery of this unit by a certain date.
When I called him and told him my hearing was on the 21st, he said, well, that doesn't really affect me. They're not going to be through with it until probably into July. And that's perfect, because it's going to take them that long to get the
You would
site ready.
understand that you can't just bring that unit here and then get all your permits.
Right.
You understand
Yeah.
that very
Correct,
clearly, that
correct.
you need to have all your permits in place
All
before
my
that unit
permits.
comes down here, should you get an approval.
How many permits do I need now?
Yeah.
Farm
Yeah.
dwelling code, whatever permits you need.
Right. And we can work out a date. I think the concern that we have is that there have been no dates. You know, this has been going on since 2012, 2013, 14, 15. I know you were dealing with my predecessor before that. But the concern that we have is that, you know, we could work out something with regard to your travel trailer, but we have to see that there are dates that you've submitted for permits, that work is progressing, and that there's a date in terms of when you plan on bringing this unit down. Then we can talk about bringing the travel trailer back while you're working on construction. That's if everything
I
goes.
just don't know what kind of permits you require, though.
We'll talk about it.
All right. Is that it? Any other?
Permits you would need if you were building a stick-built house. Land use, zoning, sanitary.
Sanitary's done.
To reconnect it to with the new.
There's a
trailer.
reconnection permit.
Reconnect permit. Same thing if you were stick building a house there, same.
I just had it done 3 years. The guy came out and inspected.
But you're going to be disconnecting the travel trailer, and then you have to reconnect the mobile home once you put the mobile home on the premises. And there's a reconnect permit that's required.
Okay. 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 Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The third is another conditional use, Kelly Sand and Gravel. An application for a conditional use in accordance to section 58, 236, 13, 58, 454, 23, 58, 931 through 58, 10, 11 of the Waushara County zoning code to expand an existing non-metallic mining site from 5 acres to include an additional 30 acres to total 35 acres. Operations will include a mining of sand and gravel and the use of hot mix asphalt plant. Reclamation plan restoring the site to passive recreational and/or agricultural land will also be considered by the Planning and Zoning Committee in the AG General Agricultural Zone. Location, approximate 35-acre parcel of land being part of the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter, less part of lots C and F of CSM 164, Lot B of CSM 165, Lot 5 of Oak Haven First Edition and Town Road, Section 22, T19N, R10E, Town of Watoma, N3568 Oak Drive. Will the applicant please come up to the podium and speak in the microphone?
Evening.
address, my home address as well?
Please.
My name's Adam Kelly, Kelly Sand and Gravel. Address is W6049 Alpine Road, Wautoma.
Okay.
We are looking to expand a gravel pit that's been an existing gravel pit since approximately 1968. It's been all over that property out there, and we have an existing 5-acre section that we pay for reclamation fees, and we have officially reclaimed it, although it's not been verified as reclaimed land because we plan on using that land within that 35-acre section. Met with you all out there yesterday, and guess I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Open the floor to the committee for any questions they may have.
I have none at this time.
I have a question. Would you be hiring any more employees to help run this, or?
At this point, we're probably looking at working with 1 or 2 different companies to do crushing and creating or making HMA, hot mix asphalt. As far as our company is concerned, we've already hired 5 new employees, and to expand this type of operation, yeah, we're going to need a few more employees, and we've purchased new equipment recently that will, not be as loud as what the old school things were out there, and to answer your question, yes, it's gonna need more employees at the company, and expanding the company as well as the gravel pit. So,
Adam, you said that you've already been exploring the market in regards to the need for something like this in our area. If you could go just a little bit into that, just for the long-term, I guess, permanency of this project.
Between the aggregates and the hot mix asphalt, or
Yeah,
just
absolutely, the whole,
in general?
yeah.
I guess when it comes to the aggregates, we as a company would like to start using, aggregates, decorative stone, different sized river rock, I guess if you'd like to call it. And then I've talked with multiple surrounding counties as well as our county, in hopes that we could sell them gravel again like we used to, whether it be 3/4 inch dense base or 1.5 inch dense to use on the county highways or town roads here in the Waushara County. When it comes to the hot mix, and that's not just the gravel, we're also talking possible chips for chip sealing, and that's for multiple county uses, not just Waushara County. If those people wanted to set something up where they came to Waushara County to get those aggregates, we would see if we would be able to work out a deal with them to make that happen. Our specific use, though, is for our company. We are a growing company. We've been here for 50 years. I'm young, motivated, and I plan on taking it to 100 years. As far as the hot mix asphalt, I think that everybody here knows that there's a need for it. There's one sitting out in Oasis, and they plan on, from my understanding, they do not feel like there's need for a full-time asphalt plant here. I've talked with a lot of their higher-ups of that company that sits out there, and they keep on telling me that their plans are is to come in for a few weeks here and a few weeks there. And that is not working for a company such as myself or surrounding companies or surrounding county highway departments who are trying to rebuild our infrastructure, rebuild our roads, rebuild our, make everything easy for the public to travel. So I think that there is, according to my studies and according to my meetings with different companies and talking to people in the public, I think there's a huge need for it.
I had a couple questions. One was, if this is approved, when would the asphalt section of the thing, would that start up this summer? Is that your plans, or?
The plan would be to try to, get everything in motion, and whether that was us going out and buying an asphalt plant or us working with a company who's going to bring an asphalt plant. All those things are for negotiations to be determined. My grandfather had 2 different asphalt companies in this, or asphalt plants in this county already. So it runs in our blood. And, whether we strike a deal with another company, which is what I'm hoping for, Or we decide that it's going to take us 6 months to a year to go ahead and get ourselves back into the industry like we have been before. So as far as the crushing and mining of aggregates, that could happen as soon as, from what I've been told, and our negotiations that I'm working with another private sector company, that could happen within 30 days of getting an approval here tonight.
And the other question I had was, you had mentioned across the street there's a big hole across Highway 22.
Yeah.
And you had indicated that your plan is not to dig a hole, is to go across, remove gravel across the
I guess
large
if I'm assuming you all got a chance to take a look at this reclamation plan. In there is also kind of a plan of how you go about doing this. And we've learned as a company, which we started that big hole and found a lot of sand, and then we went across the street. And then we dug our own big hole because reclamation wasn't even a thing until 2001. We've learned. So when somebody says, I'm going to dig a hole in the ground, it's not the best way of doing it. Instead, you find out your depth of aggregates and your consolidated materials, and you find out the proper way of making your slopes, which is 3 to 1, and be able to take layers of material off at a certain depth. And as you proceed, then your reclamation becomes easier and easier instead of having a deep hole in the ground and then having to fill it in somehow, or having to backslope from a long ways away. So I guess that's what I was trying to mention to you. There was no bad feelings about it. My grandpa started the hole, but we've learned. We've learned that taking layers is the best route.
That's all I had. I answered my question.
Something that just came to my mind through this whole discussion here, noise nuisance.
Okay.
Do you feel that that's going to be a problem within your area?
I'm just wanting to make sure you were ready for me to answer. No, I don't, and for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of things that have changed since we were last out there with the crusher. There's different, when it comes to the equipment being used in general, so many advances have taken place that sound decibels are now being compared to motorcycles going down the street or farm equipment out in a field. They're no longer above that 150 decibel and consistent noise. Then when it comes to any noise controlling of the area within that non-metallic mine, we can put up barriers, and by barriers I mean berms, which are already in place, to bounce those decimals off that and bring it back towards where your operation is happening, as well as stockpiles. If you put stockpiles in the proper place, you can bounce those decimals back and forth. There's so many different things. I've got oodles of information. I could talk for an hour about noise. And if there's any other questions about that, I would gladly go through the things that have changed in today's society. Everybody, not just us, all companies have learned that you don't want to disrupt your neighbors, and that's a very big concern.
The other thing that came to mind yesterday in our discussion is the roadway. Do you feel that there's going to be overuse of the present roadway that's existing off of the highway?
I guess if you wanted me to answer compared to the past couple years, I would say that the road is going to get more heavily used. The road was recently paved by our county highway department, which is in the town of Wautoma. I guess when it comes to non-metallic mines or asphalt plants or any sort of operations like this, they're going to use the road just like any other highway was going to be used. Just like any farmer who's going to come down the road with his equipment, which is probably maybe excessively used, but to get our product out into the market just like anybody else. And so I care enough about our community that if that road, particularly coming down there, needed any assistance, it's an asphalt road, and we're going to have an asphalt plant. So I guess I feel like we would fix it. I wouldn't want, just like any neighbors would not want their road beaten up, I as a company owner would not want my equipment going down a beaten up road. It's going to hurt our equipment just as much as it's going to hurt somebody's car going down the road.
And Carl, if I could, I've had a conversation with Sheriff Jeff Nett, who's sitting in attendance tonight. He is the chairman for the town of Watoma, and we specifically discussed this yesterday. I had originally, based upon our concerns, had a couple conditions placed in our report regarding the repair, restoration of the roadway, and then also looking at alternate access points into the property. However, after our discussions, Sheriff Jeff had asked me that the town will take care of it with Kelly Sand and Gravel. It wasn't a big concern of the town. And if you look at our codes, I mean, we will continue to monitor it, and we'll work with the applicant. But our codes, keep in mind, our codes do state that we're to use local roads versus using public highways just because of the potential for conflict out onto roadways, and you try to consolidate those wherever possible. And that right now would be at Oak. If you introduce another access point out there, there's just an additional area of potential conflict.
I only wanted to add one thing, if that was okay. The repair and maintenance of town roads, county roads, state roads, all come from certain types of funding. Some of that funding is what's being paid at the pump for fuel, and we pay a lot of that as a company who is filling up 1,000 gallons at a time. So I guess, like, I'm not going to fight the idea of ever fixing that road, because like I said, I wouldn't want my equipment going over anything that somebody wouldn't want their cars going over. But I also am aware that we pay taxes, we do this, we do that. So, like, it's a mixture of things, I guess, would be my answer. It would sure be beneficial that if there asphalt repair needed on that road, it's a couple thousand feet behind us.
Thank you. Let me take a seat.
Anything else?
Is there any correspondence regarding the request?
No correspondence has been received.
Is there anyone that's registered to speak in favor of the request?
I do. Nolan, do you wish to speak, or are you good? Okay.
Anyone speak object?
We got no one's coming up.
Okay, I didn't see him get up.
I think the last time I was in here and spoke was when our second asphalt plant that we put up in the area had too many parts per million going out the stack. It supplied the county highway department. It supplied us. It did a lot of supplying. But anyway, our agreement was that bag house they wanted us to put on there cost more than our plant did. And so we said maybe it's time to pass. So that's when Northeast got involved, and I attended a meeting here and spoke for them. And the courthouse was full of people against it. And I was one of the few that got up and spoke in favor of it, and said that we need an asphalt plant in this area. I think if you want to thrive as a community and stuff, you better have access to asphalt. And so I came in here and said that I felt that way, that we did need an asphalt plant in the area, and it was passed, even though the courtroom was full of people against it. They just didn't want it. So Northeast got approved on it, and they've done nothing on it. The latest that we've heard on it is that, well, the area isn't hungry enough for the material, so we're not pursuing it. So they've been bringing in temporary plants not at the site we approved, but at a pit next to it, and but they're only coming in for now and then, and it isn't. We're paving every day when it's not raining, but so for them to come in, and that also includes the county highway department. they're sitting there, they've got big projects in mind, and they've got to check with the plant, and now lately they've brought in a antique that breaks down about every day that you go out there to use it, and so that isn't working. So that is outside wish of ours. We've been hauling out of up by Plover from American Asphalt. Now, that's a lot of trucking, and try timing that when you're doing something. And well, let's see, I need a load, but I need hour and a half of trucking. You know, it burns up the day pretty fast, and so we thought that if we get into the aggregate more forcefully and could supply that, we might be able to supply an asphalt plant, which in turn would make it good for this area. Everybody's paying for that not having it, because to run up there that far to go get a load of asphalt, that's expensive for everybody. And when the county's got to pay that, that's all of us throwing in our money to pay for that. So we're just hopeful we'd get some similar thinking from you guys and get a pass. But and the pit that we're working in has been, well, I think he said 35 years, and we're amazed that we've found more material there yet, and we're excited about that. And it being an existing one, we're pretty hopeful it would pass, but we know nothing goes the way you dream. So that's about it, I guess.
Thank you. Can you put your name on the little microphone there so that we've got it on the record?
Nolan Kelly.
And your home address?
W9865 Brown Deer Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in objection?
Nope.
Is there any people that are to speak requesting information?
Nobody's registered.
The staff comments?
Okay. As summarized in the report, the applicants Kelly Sand and Gravel are seeking approval of a conditional use to expand an existing non-metallic mining site from 5 acres to include an additional 30 acres. The operations will include the mining of sand and gravel, the use of a hot mix asphalt plant, and then also tonight the committee is considering the reclamation plan for restoring the site to passive recreational and/or agricultural use when the operations have completed. As stated by the applicant, a large portion of the subject property, as well as that to the immediate north and the west, they've all been part of non-metallic mining operations for well over the past 20 years. These obviously have been predated NR 135, which are the governing rules applicable to non-metallic mining reclamation. Since that time, county codes have subsequently been drafted, and NR 135 code standards have come into effect. At the present time, the applicants are operating a non-metallic mining operation on 10 acres, 5 acres on the adjacent Thompson property, which has since been reclaimed, and now 5 acres on the Kelly property. That is presently being actively mined. The committee visited the site at their recent on-site on Wednesday, June 20th, and felt that the conditional use request is consistent with the existing land use, and that the abundance of material on the property are a much-needed commodity in the county. They also felt that the proposed location of the asphalt plant was well-suited given the fact that it was the furthest distance away from the existing residence. Concerns were expressed regarding Oak Drive with regard to restoration and repair, as well as traffic. However, as indicated before, based upon my conversations with the town, I believe that these probably are now going to be moot points and things that we can address at a later date and time should they become concerned. To date, the applicants have been good neighbors in the community and have complied with all county codes and all financial assurances. The expansion of mining operations at this location, keep in mind, are also in keeping with the Wautoma 20-year comprehensive plan, which designates the entire area for non-metallic mining. We are therefore recommending approval of the conditional use request to expand the existing operations from 5 acres to 35 acres, and also that the use of the hot mix asphalt plant. With regard to the conditions, I'd just like to bring 2 items to bear, and that is number 4, the hot mix asphalt operations will be permitted on a seasonal basis. The location of said operations shall coincide with that shown on the approved site plan, and the mobile equipment shall be similar to that depicted in the application. Any deviation, expansion, or alteration will require an amendment to the conditional use and future public hearing. The applicant shall also be required to submit for and receive an initial land use permit for the hot mix asphalt operation. Number 5, the hours of operation shall be during the daylight hours only, Monday through Saturday, with no Sunday hours. The applicant has sent in a request that emergency hours be permitted, which would go into the nighttime hours, and if the committee so chooses, we can always modify that condition accordingly. And that's all I have.
Okay. Moving right along. The 4th is a zone change by Charles Seward. Let me get my...
Good evening. Charles Seward, 2858 Dover Circle, Fitchburg, Wisconsin.
This Robert Juneau proposed CSM Lot 2, Charles proposed CSM Lot 3 has made an application for a zone change in accordance with sections 58-131 through 138, 58-451, and 58-541 of the Waushara County Zoning Code from an AG agricultural to an RS20 residential single family for the purpose of creating 3 residential lots in size from .674 to .838 acres within the shoreland area. Location is approximately 2.26 acres, being part of lots 1, 2, and 3 of CSM 6485, and an existing parcel being lots 7, 8, and 9 of Hills Lake subdivision, less the west 20 feet and easement, all in Government Lot 8, Section 8, T 18N R11E, Town of Marion, Cree Avenue, and proposed Kula Way to be dedicated to the public. Now, you have the podium.
Well, the last time I was here, 2 months ago, I'm sure you all remember that you passed the request that we had for rezoning all of the lakefront. At that time, we had 6 lots on the lake to be rezoned to RS20, and then the remainder AR. You passed that. The following month, the Board of Supervisors also passed it. And right about that same day that the Board of Supervisors passed it, I accepted an offer from a purchaser who wished not to have 11 lots in a subdivision, but just to have...
Excuse me, can you raise the microphone up a little bit or stand a little closer to it?
Sure, I can do that.
Speak louder.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So I received an offer from one of the lake residents who wanted to purchase all of the 11 lots that my wife and I currently own in what we were going for Little Hills Estates. As a result, he wants what you've already allowed, which was RS20 for 1, 2, and 3, lots 1, 2, and 3, and the balance to stay what it already is, which is agricultural. Since I was here last, my wife and I have deeded the property to the town of Marion, and it has been recorded. You have a copy of the...
I need a recorded copy. I don't have that yet.
Okay, all right. And as you had since, I think that your office has the resolution that the town of Marion has accepted it in Resolution 2017-4. So the road is installed in place, it is deeded, it is renamed, it is being maintained by the town of Marion, and zoning department, my understanding is that zoning wished to have a new CSM where we have just the lots 1, 2, and 3 be rezoned RS20, which you already approved, and the balance being agricultural. I guess that's it.
Committee have any questions?
I have none.
There being none?
I was just curious, I mean, have you spoken to the buyer, and his intent is to not have any more lots on the lake? Is that to build?
I would say that, in my opinion, there's only upside for him to purchase the subdivision, for us to finish it and purchase it. There's only upside for him and his successors. But his choice is to keep all, whatever it is, 13 acres, 11 acres, whatever's remaining, as one lot, and build a home on the North Point, which would be, if I could afford it, which is exactly what I would want to have done. So.
And Pat, I've had conversations with the gentleman that's purchasing the property, and that was my concern too, is, you know, since we're going forth for a public hearing for rezoning the property, I'd asked him what his intentions were, and if he's looking at rezoning or re-subdividing, let's take care of it now. This is the time to do it. Otherwise, we're going to be back doing this again. And his desire was, he just wants the property, wants some exclusion, and that's where he's at.
He loves being a quarter of a mile away from everybody, which is fantastic, and he can afford to do it. So I wish I would have known that 6 months ago.
Would have saved you all this headache.
Sorry.
I wish you would have known that in April.
I brought my snow skis along.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Charles, just real quick, there was a landlocked resident within that 11 acres, correct?
Yes.
And I don't believe I see him here
No.
tonight.
Mr. Klein, Richard Klein?
Fine,
Yeah.
right. And has there been any conversation, I know he was quite concerned with what you were doing. Has there been any concern?
Obviously, he's not here.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I just didn't know if you'd spoken to him or.
I've had conversations with Mr. Klein too, and per the new CSM that you have before you, the gentleman that's purchasing the property is going to honor all of the existing easements that are on the property. That has to do with the common access easement out to the waterway, as well as the access easements on Maple and Pine.
Okay, very good.
Anything else?
Okay. Does staff have any questions?
I just, for summary for everyone here, that the applicant is requesting a zone change for 3 lots ranging in size from .67 acres to .84 acres, and a rezoning to RS20 from AG General Agricultural for the property located north and east of Cree Avenue in the town of Marion. As we all see, the request that we have before us is considerably different from that we looked at back in February and in April. Back then, there was a 13-lot subdivision rezoning from RS20 to AR, or from AG to both RS20 and AR, I apologize. The 4-lot subdivision could have been created via just a typical CSM. However, given the location and the construction of Kula Way, lots 1 and 2 would require the zone change, and then Mr. Pluteman's lot kind of piggybacked onto this, which is consistent with everything that's been put forth, and also the comprehensive plan. With regard to correspondence, we have received from the town of Marion their minutes in which they did accept and approve a request made by Chuck Seward to withdraw the zone change request from AG to both RS20 and AR at their June 14th, 2018 Town Board meeting. As a result of this withdrawal, the applicant's original request no longer exists, which clears the way for the review of this application by the Planning and Zoning Committee. There was no on-site conducted on Wednesday, June 20th, 2018, due to the fact that the committee felt that there was nothing really significantly changed since their last visits, and actually thought that the proposal that's before us is in keeping with the zoning of the surrounding land uses as well as the comprehensive plan. Staff's reviewed this request. We've worked with the owner. We've also been working with quite closely in that with the surveying company, believes that this zone change request for the two newer lots and the existing Pluteman lot is in keeping with this area and the surrounding land uses, and we're recommending approval subject to the conditions listed in the report. And we really don't have anything out of the unordinary outside of the fact that I will work with on number 5, I will work with the surveyor to ensure that the Pluteman lot, adheres to all the code requirements. And I think I jumped the gun, but
Close enough. Close enough. Is there anyone that want to speak in favor of?
nobody's registered.
No one's registered. Fair enough. Oh. And we got staff report.
Yep.
And no rebuttal?
Do we have any rebuttal, Chuck?
Be no more comments. That concludes the public testimony portion of tonight's meeting. With that being said, will you please take a roll call and record the same?
Mike Cap,
Here?
Carl,
Here.